So welcome to the Oregon Extended Assessment Training Module for District Test Coordinators and Special Education Directors. The purpose of this webinar is to provide information and guidance to District Test Coordinators and Special Education Directors in support of their respective roles and responsibilities related to the efficient and effective implementation of the Oregon Extended Assessment, specifically to ensure all Oregon Extended Assessment administration and data entry occurs within the established timeline. However, before we cover those functions that support districts' Oregon Extended Assessment monitoring efforts, the following is an overview of the Oregon Extended Assessment. As you may or may not be aware, the U.S. Department of Education provided an allowance to states to create an alternate assessment for students with the most significant cognitive disabilities. That is, an alternate assessment based on alternate academic achievement standards, or Oregon's Extended Assessment. It is the IEP team who decides which student or students will participate in the Oregon Extended Assessment. As a bit of context, I wanted to provide a sample of a student who, an Oregon student who participates in the Oregon Extended Assessment.
You're right. So we're going to talk about gravity and if things fall up or down. Gravity pulls things to the earth, so it makes things fall down. Yeah, down. So we're going to drop some things and see if they fall up or down. You ready? All right. Hi. The first thing we have is the ball. Ready? I'm going to drop it. 1, 2, 3. So, what do you think? Did the ball fall up or down? Down. Down. It did. The ball fell down.
So as mentioned in a prior slide, among the numerous instructional decisions, IEP teams determine the student's statewide assessment option, whether they'll participate in the general assessment with or without accommodations, or the extended assessment using the guidance document on eligibility for the Oregon Extended, which we'll talk about in just a moment, or ALPA 21, if EL, how they will participate in the ALPA 21, and then also the types of accessibility supports to provide the student during the assessment. So consulting the Oregon Accessibility Manual, noting that a decision to use unapproved assessment accessibility supports is a decision to modify and therefore invalidate the student's test for all reporting or accountability purposes. And that applies to all the statewide assessments, including the Oregon Extended Assessment. As I mentioned earlier, the eligibility guidelines. These are for the support of this component of the IEP team decision-making around assessments and participation in the statewide assessments. In 2015, Oregon updated their guidance with regards to those who might participate in the Oregon Extended Assessment. And those guidelines are posted on the following websites: the statewide alternate extended assessment website, the Oregon Extended Training and Proficiency website, which we'll talk about in just a moment, where you will go and register for monitoring purposes, and the Oregon Extended Administration Manual under selecting the assessment. Just to highlight a few things regarding the eligibility guidelines, only students with the most significant cognitive disabilities are allowed to take the Oregon Extended, and the guidelines are intended to highlight those features, attributes, if you will, of a student, and to assist, again, the IEP team in making that decision. By no means is it intended to be prescriptive or constrain the team, but to assist in supporting their decision-making efforts in this arena. If eligible for the Oregon Extended Assessment, the student with significant cognitive disabilities will participate in all content areas. That is, mixed participation is no longer an option, hasn't been an option for some time. Participation, wanted to provide just an overview of the numbers of students that participate by content area and eligibility category. So in terms of content area, we have approximately 4,000 plus students participate in the math and ELA Oregon Extended Assessment, and approximately 1,700 students will participate in the Science Oregon Extended Assessment. And of course, the difference in the numbers there is because in science, students only in grades 5, 8, and 11 participate in the assessment. While all eligibility categories are represented, the majority of students who participate primarily come from these three: intellectual disability, autism spectrum disorder, other health impairment. But again, all eligibility categories are represented as participating in the extended assessment. The Oregon Extended Assessment consists of the following three subject areas: English Language Arts, ELA, which includes reading, writing, language, mathematics, and science. Grade level assessments in ELA and math, grades 3 through 8 and 11 inclusive. For science, as I mentioned earlier, grades 5, 8, and 11 are assessed. There are two administration types of the Oregon Extended Assessment, paper, pencil, or electronic. For the paper pencil, qualified assessors and trainers use the Oregon Extended Assessment Training and Proficiency website to access the Oregon Extended Assessment student materials and scoring protocol beginning this year forward. It has been moved from the District Secure website to this secure U of O site, BRT U of O site, our test vendor site. So all test materials, student materials for the Oregon Extended Assessment and scoring protocol, as well as the Oregon Observational Rating Assessment, as well as entering data for both the Oregon Extended Assessment and the Aurora are accessible there. As I mentioned, you have the electronic administration or format, and that's available for students who can successfully access the assessment, the Oregon Extended Assessment, in electronic format. So use the electronic format in that format, they can access directly the Oregon Extended student materials. The data is automatically entered as testing proceeds for the Oregon Extended Assessment, and they can access the Aurora, an option presented to the QA or QT automatically if testing is discontinued. As I just alluded to earlier, in order to provide a reliable and valid administration, we have a program by which we identify, train, and authorize folks to provide a valid and reliable administration of the Oregon Extended Assessment. And we refer to those folks as qualified assessors and qualified trainers. Qualified trainers are those who have served as qualified assessors, but then in turn train new staff, certificated staff, to become qualified assessors or PAs in the general assessment world. Only qualified assessors and qualified trainers may administer the Oregon Extended Assessment. Administration must be conducted in accordance with ODE's requirements. That is, be a certificated district employee, complete the proficiency test on the Oregon Extended Assessment Training and Proficiency site, which is at this website cited here, complete the district's test security training, and have a completed signed test security student confidentiality agreement on file with the district each year. Districts are responsible for ensuring they have the capacity to assess all students who will be taking the Oregon Extended Assessment, and allocations to support that responsibility were committed to districts based on their special ed child count. They are provided to them every fall. The rationale, as I alluded to earlier, for providing this in-depth training, if you will, for folks who serve as test administrators, so qualified assessors and qualified trainers, is to ensure that every student has an equal opportunity to show what she or he knows and can do. So the common training ensures reliability from one assessor to another, from one occasion to another, from one district to another. And as a result of that, is intended to ensure that the results are an accurate reflection of student knowledge and skill, and that the outcome is a reflection of what we intended to measure, which is the very definition of validity. Very briefly, the windows for administration and data entry. So for the administration of the Oregon Extended Assessment, this year's school year, it will open February 14th, and it will close at 5 p.m. on April 25th. As always, assessment materials are available for download 1 week prior to the opening of the administration window, so that will begin February 7th for paper pencil, as well as for accessing the electronic format. So QAs and QTs will then have some time to adequately prepare for the variety of students that they will be administering the Oregon Extended Assessment to. As far as the Oregon Extended Assessment data entry window, for grades 3 through 8 and 11, that will open February 14th, the very same day as the administration window opens, and closes at 5 p.m. on May 10th. Performance scores then being available May 24th. We always have allowed for a couple, 3 weeks beyond the administration window closing to get the data in, enter the data for those students, to allow enough time for staff to do that. And in terms of grade 12 for the data entry, again, data entry opens February 14th and closes at 5 p.m. though on April 25th. So the beginning and end of the administration window is also the beginning and end of the data entry window. This is to ensure that performance scores will be available by May 10th for graduation and diploma decision-making and meeting those requirements and attending to those. So we put that in a bit more expedited track. Very briefly, this is the minimum participation rule. So for accountability purposes, for students participating in the Oregon Extended Assessment, to count towards participation, a student must take at least 10 items. If a student misses 10 items at any point within the administration of the first 15 items, QA should consider discontinuation. All accessibility supports and appropriate revision should be considered thoroughly, however, prior to discontinuing an extended administration. So hopefully all of those pieces are in place. If the Oregon Extended Assessment is discontinued, the qualified assessor or teacher who knows the student best are encouraged to complete the Aurora, and only one Aurora per student. So regardless of how many content areas assessments are discontinued, there's only one Aurora that's completed for a student. And to underscore, the Aurora is not part of the accountability reporting system. It's completed by a teacher. Students don't participate in it, and it's not really focused on the accountability categories that U.S. Department is looking for, ELA, math, and science, ELA and math in particular. In terms of scoring, whether paper, pencil, or electronically, the student or qualified assessor will enter the letter of the student's responses except for the writing prompts. So for this year, and for some context here, we moved just this last year to electronic format option for students in terms of taking the extended assessment. And so for one piece of the ELA assessment, the writing piece, that is a separate scoring step that qualified assessors take, and just wanted to make you familiar with it, that there is entering the responses for that student on the electronic format, but that there's a writing component that is managed a bit separately, obviously, because the writing responses, et cetera, are unique versus what is provided in the ELA, the remaining ELA and math and science categories. For grade 12, we provided a retake option several years ago. If they did not meet proficiency expectations as 11th graders, grade 12 students whose current IEP indicates they are to participate in the Oregon Extended Assessment are afforded the opportunity to retake the Oregon Extended Assessment in ELA and or math. The only reason we call out ELA and or math and not science is because, again, for accountability purposes, the ELA and math pieces are what we're focused on there. So that said, having provided an overview of the Oregon Extended Assessment, the focus of this section is to provide specific information to district test coordinators and special education directors in support of their respective roles and responsibilities related to the efficient and effective implementation of the Oregon Extended Assessment, specifically outlining the protocol for accessing and monitoring the status of the Oregon Extended Assessment Administration and data entry records in their schools and districts, ensuring these requirements are completed within the established timeline. The following 4 slides detail the process for creating an account, but first, wanted DTCs and special education directors know that ODE has provided the list of DTCs and special education directors to the BRT University of Oregon Secure site, the Oregon Extended Assessment Training Proficiency site system, to facilitate their registration and access, read-only, to monitor school and district Oregon Extended Assessment Administration data and data entry records, specifically providing the SSIDs, students, and the qualified assessors trainers that are involved. This slide in particular serves as a reminder regarding new and returning user registration protocols, so it can be referred to moving forward. For those of you that register, will be under, obviously I'll walk through today, the new users registration, but then beyond that, as a returning user, you'll use your email address and assigned password or password that you've developed, or established, and then move from there. But this outlines that if your old email address has changed, or to update that, or your password, there are options available to you on the registration site to do that. If a DTC and or special education director wishes to delegate the Oregon Extended Assessment monitoring responsibilities, what we're reviewing today, ODE requires that they identify a staff member who has met the prerequisite requirements to competently carry out this responsibility. Specifically, they've completed the prerequisite test security and student confidentiality training applicable to them, has a current signed test security and student confidentiality form on file with the district, and is familiar with the monitoring feature on the Oregon Extended Assessment Training and Proficiency site. For these reasons, if a DTC and or special education director wishes to delegate this responsibility, ODE highly recommends designated a current qualified trainer who by definition has met the prerequisite requirements and has in this role access to these records for monitoring purposes already. If the district or ESD does not have a current QT, qualified trainer, then DTCs or special education directors can send an email of the authorized designee directly to the Oregon Extended Assessment Help Desk, which will be cited at the end of our slide presentation today. So there are a number of options if, perchance, the DTC and our special education director does not wish to participate in that monitoring function or effort. The landing page for registering or logging into the Oregon Extended Assessment System is on the Oregon Extended Assessment Training and Proficiency site, or k12test.com, which you can see at the top of the slide. It is BRT, Behavioral Research and Teaching, at the University of Oregon, or Oregon's Extended Assessment Test Vendor. It's on their secure site. As I mentioned earlier, everything pertaining to the Oregon Extended Assessment has been moved to this secure site. If a DTC and or special education director is new to this system, click the register link indicated here. Otherwise, returning DTCs and special education directors log in using their email and password. Having clicked the register link, new DTCs and or SPED directors will be directed on the user registration page here to enter the district email in the box indicated on this slide. You will receive a confirmation email to complete registration. Be sure to use your district email so we can verify your account as being associated with an approved district account. And once your registration is complete, log in and access the Student Details tab. Click the Student Details tab in order to access the Monitoring tab, allowing a DTC and or SPED director, again in the read-only mode, to view the student list and monitor Oregon Extended Assessment administration and data entry progress. Having clicked the Monitoring button, here is an example of what a DTC and or SPED director will find. So a review at the very top of the slide, you'll see that the key in terms of interpreting the status or progress of a student. So S meaning the particular content area assessment has been submitted, I that it's incomplete, that N it has not even been started, or D it was discontinued for minimum participation considered by those rules, or a dash in terms of it's not applicable. And if we look at the students that are provided to us here, in addition to the primary eligibility and secondary, if applicable, and the student's first, last name, SSID, etc., you'll have the content areas of ELA, math, science, and the Aurora. And so in this case, the first student of grade 4 has submitted their ELA, so that's been completed. The math is not started yet. The science is not applicable because it's a grade 4 student, correct? Because only students in grades 5, 8, and 11 are assessed. And then an I, incomplete, in terms of it's not been submitted at this, completed and submitted at this time. If you have any questions with regards to anything that's been presented in this PowerPoint for Oregon District Test Coordinators or Special Education Directors, feel free to contact me, Brad Lenhart, at my email or phone number here. In addition, questions or comments about the Oregon Extended Assessment Training and Proficiency website, there's an 800 number, fax number, as well as the help desk email that I referred to earlier, which is where, again, any DTCs or special education directors who wish to designate another authorized staff to assume monitoring responsibilities, again, to ensure that administration and data entry are entered in a timely manner within the deadlines that they could submit the name and email of the person that they have authorized to do that.